just as a quick example, these are 3 campuses. They're all 3 Big Ten universities. They're all roughly the same square footage, roughly the same number of students, but they thought they were identical. They thought they were very similar. When we did the analysis, we showed that they were fundamentally different. The first campus was spending a tremendous amount on stewardship, so their backlog was growing at a relatively slow rate, not a lot of deferral. Their operations was very strong, customers were very happy, and their capital investments were very modest. And the campus is beautiful. Campus B and C started drifting and spending less on stewardship. Well, look what happened. As the stewardship drops, the operations also starts to drop. Again, becoming less effective because ultimately you're chasing that failure. As the operations become less effective, the customers start to tell you there's more and more of a problem. And the normal reaction of a university when the complaints start becoming very high is to throw capital at the problem. Renovate a building to whoever the loudest complainer is. We have a couple people laughing. Nobody's ever seen that before, right? Yeah, never. The fascinating thing is if I said, who do you think's doing a better job, Campus A or Campus C? I think probably most people would say, under this paradigm, Campus A is doing the better job. Who's spending the most money? Campus C is spending the most money. So it is true you need to have the money to do a good job. But it also is true that how you spend that money is very, very important. So with that, here's a couple of these big trends. Again, I said this is close to 850 to 900 million square feet of space we deal with every year, 290 campuses. And now I've broken them down into Carnegie class, community colleges, 2-year schools, the comprehensive schools, research universities, and smaller institutions, mostly small private liberal arts kind of residential colleges are those smaller institutions. The average campus size, not surprising, the community colleges and the small institutions right around 1 million to 1.5 million square feet. The comprehensives tend to be around 4.5 million, and the research institutions tend to be between 6 and 7 million square feet. Again, we're looking at E and G spaces here, so that we're not talking about all the housing and some of the other components. The interesting thing is you look at average building size, the community colleges have as large of buildings as the comprehensive. The research actually has smaller buildings on general, and that's not, again, more labs and other kinds of things. The small institutions tend to have the smallest buildings. The age is very different, though. It's fascinating. I mean, the 2-year schools have this huge bubble of age that's between 25 and 50 years old, right here. Major capital exposure that's driving at those institutions because so much of the facilities are coming of the age at the same time. It was also surprising, though, that the smaller institutions tend to have the younger facilities. I was really surprised when I saw that one because I would have expected the research ones to do that. But that's, it's not that big, but it is big. When we look at operating budgets, the comprehensive budgets and the 2-year budgets have been going up. I think that's mostly because there's more students going to those schools right now. So you see a lot more activity, and you have, as a result, your costs are higher. The research institutions has taken the hardest hit in terms of cost per square foot. Again, a lot of endowment-based, a lot of grant-based, a lot of things that have a lot more effect of a changing economy. And the small institutions were kind of in the middle. They also took a fairly strong hit in this profile.
Is this funds that are, is this for the budget or what actually is spent?
This is their current budgets. That's what they're being allocated to spend. Most of them are pretty close. I mean, we're probably within 5 or 10 cents a square foot of budget to actual.
Sometimes what you get is you need twice as much as what you
Yeah, you got that right. Yeah.
It's not real clear,
Yeah. But when you're going across so many institutions, these things level themselves out, these variances. Every institution is different, though. I mean, when we go to one specific institution, the trend could be significantly different. Energy, we've seen in general energy dropping over the last 4 or 5 years across the board. Research institutions have taken the largest hit, with the comprehensive taking the most aggressive hit in the last year, which is kind of interesting. when I looked at, I said, well, how's that break down between electrical and energy versus fossil fuels? The electricity has not dropped anywhere near as fast as the total energy, so therefore, this is mostly fossil fuel based. In fact, when you look at the research base, the electricity is actually going back up again. When you look at the capital budgets, this was interesting. The one-time money, which would be bonds and gifts and one-time allocations versus the annual capital budget, which everybody gets every year to support the modest renewal and modernization projects. You see, again, the community colleges or the two-year schools are growing significantly as the population is changing, but they've taken it out of their annual budgets. So they've substituted debt for annual spending, if you will. The other trends have been much more the same, but it's interesting to see that the research institutions have a smaller capital budget, but it's more steady. But at the same token, on a cost per square foot, but when you're talking about campuses that are 7 or 9 million square feet or more, those dollars add up pretty quickly. Ultimately, this goes down to that rate of deferral that we talked about before. If you're not funding your stewardship, how much are you adding to your backlog of needs, repairs, modernization, alterations on an annual basis? So you see, this is the target, and the target goes back to that red zone on that radar chart. We set that target for each institution. So when we add it all together, on average, the two-year schools are a little over $4.60 a square foot. The comprehensive doctoral institutions tend to be over $5 a square foot. Interesting, the research institutions are in the $4.60, $4.70, $4.80 a square foot. Why? Because of the functional obsolescence I mentioned before. Those spaces are churning, so therefore they should have a lower stewardship target. You don't want to, I equate it back to, it's like changing, if you funded the stewardship at full life cycle, it'd be like changing the oil on your rental car. I mean, why would you want to do that, right? Since these spaces are churning so quickly.